Coming up on today's show, we're going to preview the NBA Finals between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. At the end of the show, I'll give you my prediction. But first, I want to hear from all of you in the comment section and get those predictions in. Who is going to raise the Larry O'Brien Trophy? GSW for the Golden State Warriors, BOS for the Boston Celtics. Get those predictions in, and let's dive into this series preview right now. All right, here we go. You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. The NBA Finals officially tipping off on Thursday from the Chase Center in San Francisco in a really intriguing matchup between the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. For this crew, for the Boston Celtics, making their first NBA Finals appearance. For the Golden State Warriors, looking to lock down their fourth championship with the current iteration of this core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, as well as Draymond Green. And for the Boston Celtics, also looking to be victorious in their 18th NBA Finals, which would set the record for the most NBA championships, overtaking the Los Angeles Lakers, who during the NBA bubble season were able to lock down their 17th NBA championship. Two iconic brands in the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors. For the Celtics, one of the most historic franchises in all of sports, and really over the last decade, the Warriors with this crew have been able to raise multiple NBA championships and become the iconic dynasty of this NBA generation. The Warriors reaching their 6th NBA Finals in 8 seasons. The 2 years in which they didn't make a deep run in the NBA playoffs was when they were down and injured, highlighted by Klay Thompson having to undergo that ACL surgery as well as that torn Achilles. That's why this is a marvelous story for the Warriors to get back to title contention with Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Steve Kerr. Their playoff run has certainly been dominant, and this is the best team that they're going to face throughout this NBA playoffs run, because the Boston Celtics, I think, offer a bunch of threats toward the Golden State Warriors, and they match up favorably across the board. You look at what the Warriors have been able to do en route to the NBA Finals. First round, they went up against the Denver Nuggets, able to dust them in 5 games. In the second round, somewhat of a contentious and competitive series against the Memphis Grizzlies, but Ja Morant going out paved the way for the Warriors to win that series in 6 games. And then in the Western Conference Finals, a couple of games in which we were riding the seesaw between the Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks, but they did a great job of defending Luka Doncic. Some of the other surrounding players on that Mavericks roster unable to step up, and the Warriors proved to be too tall of a task for the young and upstart Dallas Mavericks. For Golden State, they ooze championship pedigree, and they have gone on one of the most impressive runs in the history of the NBA, and by winning the NBA championship this year, they entered the equation of some of the best dynastic teams in the history of the NBA. Those legendary Lakers teams back in the day, the legendary Celtics teams led by Larry Bird, and before that, Bill Russell. And of course, you have to talk about the Chicago Bulls, and then in the early 2000s, it's the Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal-led Los Angeles Lakers. And for the Warriors, from the front office to the coaching staff to the roster, this is an organization that does a phenomenal job with player development, with coming up clutch in the guts of the game, with having star power, led by Steph Curry, the most selfless superstar. Honestly, in my opinion, in the history of basketball, this is the prototype nowadays in the NBA for all of the other 29 teams in the NBA to follow and model their organizations after. That's how great the Warriors have been. Keys to victory for the Warriors to be champions once again in San Francisco. I think ball movement can beat this feisty and elite Boston Celtics defense, especially on some of these switches. The Celtics are phenomenal defensively in some of those switches in a day nowadays in the NBA where some of those pick and rolls are really, really crucial to a team's offensive success. Because the Celtics boost such a great defense, I don't think Steph Curry and Klay Thompson can afford to go on long shooting lulls. And when that happens, this Warriors offense does get a little bit stagnant. Defensively for the Warriors, you're going to have to shut down Jayson Tatum, who has gone on a masterful run throughout the NBA playoffs. The big player who's going to be matching up against Jayson Tatum a lot Andrew Wiggins, who I think did a really good job against Luka Doncic in the Western Conference Finals. The X factor for me for the Warriors in this series, it's going to be Jordan Poole and his ability to break down the defense off the bounce. If the shots aren't falling for Steph and Klay, yes, they can get to the rack a time or two, and Steph Curry, of course, better at putting the ball on the floor as compared to Klay Thompson, but Jordan Poole is the player who can bail the Warriors out when their offense gets a little bit sluggish, especially with his ability to get to the 10. He is the X factor, in my opinion, in this playoff series because a lot of the focus is going to be on Steph as well as Klay Thompson, and outside of those options, not many scoring options for the Warriors. And at the end of the day, I think Golden State's experience is going to play a big role. They have all of the NBA Finals experience in this playoff series as compared to the Boston Celtics. They do not have a singular player on their roster who has actually played in an NBA Finals game. The same cannot be said for the Warriors, and that experience, I think, is going to play a huge role in this series because we have seen the Boston Celtics struggle to close out games, and that is where the Warriors rise up to the occasion and oftentimes play their best basketball. We'll get to the keys of victory for the Boston Celtics coming up around the corner, but first, who is the Warriors' X factor in the NBA Finals? For me, it's Jordan Poole. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, give me a name in the comment section right now. If you want to bet on the NBA Finals, right now, the Warriors are the favorites. You can do so with the best sports book in the game. It is BetUS. And right now, they're offering a 125% deposit bonus if you head to chatsports.com/bet and enter the promo code CHAT125. Here are the betting odds for Game 1 of this series. The over-under set at 211.5. The Warriors are home favorites from the raucous Chase Center, 3.5-point favorites in Game 1, and they are the favorites to win this series very slightly. A lot of that money coming in on the Golden State Warriors over the last couple of days and hours. Once again, if you want to put your bets in, chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code CHAT125. Now we shift to the Boston Celtics, reaching their first NBA Finals since 2010, when it was that current iteration of their short-term dynasty, Paul Pierce, Kevin Durant, as well as Ray Allen. Those teams were phenomenal. They won a championship the year before against the Los Angeles Lakers, and then they fell back in 2010. From that point on, the Celtics have made multiple appearances in the Eastern Conference Finals, but led by the heroics of Jayson Tatum, the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, finally able to punch their ticket to the championship round for the first time in more than a decade. The Celtics have battled through a lot of injuries all throughout the playoffs, but Jayson Tatum has emerged as a bona fide superstar in this league. And you think of what he's been able to do throughout the playoffs, it's going to go down as one of the most historic playoff runs from an individual in NBA playoffs history. In the first round, he took down Kevin Durant. In the second round, he took down Giannis. In the third round, a very well-coached and the Heat culture in the Miami Heat. And if Jayson Tatum can dot the exclamation point and finish off the Golden State Warriors and take down Steph Curry, that, folks, goes down as one of the most impressive playoff runs individually in the history of the NBA playoffs. Path to the finals for the Boston Celtics, I already broke it down. They swept the Nets. Second round series went the distance, 7 games against the Milwaukee Bucks. If Milwaukee has Chris Middleton, does that series end up in a different fashion? Potentially. And then another 7-game series against the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. What's wild? Al Horford. You saw how the team reacted once the Celtics were able to punch their ticket to the NBA Finals. A big reason for that, they reacted the way that they did with Al Horford crowding him because it's the most career playoff games without reaching the NBA Finals among all active players for Grandpa Al. And he played a crucial role in that Eastern Conference playoff series against the Miami Heat. In my opinion, the Celtics going to need Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart to step up because a lot of the defensive focus for the Warriors is going to be honed in on Jayson Tatum. Brown, Marcus Smart, they need to play to their max potential for the Celtics to win their first championship in more than a decade. Keys to victory for Boston. The health of Robert Williams is going to be huge. That knee injury has been nagging for him all throughout this playoff run. He's been battling through pain, and clearly in Game 7, he wasn't feeling his normal self. But as a rim protector and as a guy who can guard some of those switches and get out to the three-point arc to alter some three-point shots, Robert Williams is living up to that big contract that he signed last year in the offseason. The Celtics also have given the Warriors trouble in years past with the current iteration of this core of Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart. They're really good defensively. They have the length there on the defensive side of the floor, and offensively, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and at those wing spots, they do give the Warriors defense some fits. They're going to have to force Klay Thompson to put the ball on the deck, and I think that also is going to be a big key for Boston defensively in this playoff series. Don't be surprised. Anytime that Klay Thompson takes a pass, if there's a defender right in his mug, he lacks a little bit of explosiveness and a little bit of athleticism coming off those consecutive ACL and Achilles injuries. And if you give him a slimmer of daylight to shoot the basketball from beyond the arc, he will burn you. He will make you pay. If you force him to put the ball on the floor, his offensive game changes a little bit. Ime Udoka, who has led the Celtics to having the best defense in the NBA up to this point, I'm certain is certainly pounding that in to the Celtics' heads all throughout this week in preparation for this playoff series. I think Boston's depth could be challenged a little bit. They don't have the depth of the Golden State Warriors. That's something to keep an eye out for. And can Tatum complete the Grim Reaper run that we talked about earlier? First round KD, second round Giannis, third round Jimmy Butler if he takes down Steph Curry as well. I'm telling you, you look back at the course of NBA history, that will go down as one of the most impressive heroic feats that we have ever seen, and that is really saying something considering the star power that we've seen throughout the history of the NBA. Who will win the 2022 NBA Finals MVP? That's my last question for all of you watching right now. Who do you think it's going to be? Steph Curry? That'll certainly add something to his mantle on an already impressive Hall of Fame resume. Could it be Klay Thompson? Could it be Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or Marcus Smart? Give me a name in the comments section. Also, make sure you subscribe to all of our NBA channels here at Chat Sports, especially Chat Sports, our main YouTube channel, because we're pumping out crazy content with the NBA offseason right around the corner. Boston Celtics today, Golden State Warriors today. Under the Chat Sports umbrella, we continue to grow the series schedule. We'll get to this too before we hop on out of here. It all tips off Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern is Game 1 from the Chase Center in San Francisco. And there are 2 days in between all of these games, so more rest in between these NBA Finals matchups. Game 2 is on Sunday. Game 3, the series shifts back to Boston at TD Garden on Wednesday. Game 4 is Friday. Game 5 going back to San Francisco if necessary. I don't think this series is going to be a sweep. Game 6 Thursday, Game 7 on Sunday. We're going to be doing watch parties for every single one of these games during the NBA Finals on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel as well as on Warriors Today. Lastly, if you didn't get your predictions in, get them in right now. Who you got? BOS for the Boston Celtics, GSW for the Golden State Warriors. I think because of their playoff pedigree, because of their NBA Finals experience, the Warriors are going to be victorious in this series in 7 games. Yes, Boston has given the Warriors fits in years past, but it's the NBA playoffs, it's the NBA Finals, and the rigors of it, the pressure of it, a little bit different than a regular season game. This is the matchup that I wanted to see, and I think the ratings are going to pop off, and I think this series goes the distance. Give me Golden State to win in 7 games. Let me know who you got, and we are locked and loaded for another great NBA Finals matchup.